Save your scary movies and ghost stories. If you want to feel real terror this Halloween season, all you have to do is pick up a history book and read about the Donner Party. The promises of the riches of the West, the garden of the earth, laid a trap for this band of pioneers whose story changed migration patterns at the time and became a morality tale for generations to come. So save your scary movies and ghost stories. It was 1846 when a group of settlers banded together with other travelers and began a 2,500-mile trip from Springfield, Illinois to California in search of prosperity that had eluded them in the Midwest. By the time the group was completely assembled, there were 87 travelers from age 70 to very young children, including a military faction that they joined forces with after stopping in Independence, Missouri. At the halfway point, the group was only a week behind schedule, and things were going well. That's when information became their greatest enemy. The group received conflicting information about which route to take. They split up. The Donner Party reached the Great Salt Lake and voted to take the new route. At this point, the trip began to take an ominous tone. They began having to clear trees and other obstructions from this new route to allow the passage of the 23 wagons. At one point, they covered only 8 miles in 6 days of strenuous travel. After finally reaching the Great Salt Desert, the group expected to begin making up time. Once again, their new path yielded only frustration. The sand was moist and deep, making passage for wagons arduous. After they finally made it through the desert, they took an inventory and realized their provisions would not be sufficient for the remaining 600 miles of their journey. They sent 2 men ahead to find more supplies at Sutter's Fort. One man had already died of consumption when the grim tone of the caravan began to overtake the group. James Reed, one of the leaders of the group, became upset with the handling of some of the oxen and stabbed and killed the teamster who was responsible for the mistreatment. Reed was banished from the group along with another man. As they traveled along the Humboldt River in Nevada, the animals began to give out, forcing many in the group to walk to lighten the load for the weary beasts. On October 12th, the group was attacked by Native Americans, and 21 of the pioneers and several of the animals were killed with poison-tipped arrows. The last bit of good news for the group came on October 19th, when, out of food and other supplies, one of the men who went to Fort Sutter returned with provisions and word of a better trail into California. Despite all of the hardships, the group was sure that they would finally reach their goal. As they made their way into the Sierra Nevadas, the group encountered heavy snowfall. More than 20 feet of snow fell, trapping the group for the winter. It was October 31st, 1846. By Thanksgiving, the last of the animals had been slaughtered for food or lost in the snow, and hunting in these conditions was hopeless. Hunger began to claim the group one by one. Several tried to forge ahead to find more provisions, but were overcome by weather and starvation. When 4 more men died at the campsite, desperation finally overtook the starving group, and they resorted to cannibalism to survive. By the time rescuers arrived in February, only 48 of the group remained, and many of those were barely clinging to life or had gone crazy. All told, 41 of the original 87 people, including 2/3 of the men on the trip, died. The story has become part of American folklore, The tale of desperation tells of true terror. At what point does a person become so agonized that he is able to consume a fellow traveler to save his own life? The survivor's guilt, coupled with the guilt of having to butcher and eat a companion, would drive almost anyone crazy. The promises of the riches of the West, the Garden of the Earth, laid a trap for this band of prisoners whose story changed migration patterns at the time and became a morality tale for generations to come. The main lesson the group teaches is the real value of the trendy new thing. They were given a new shortcut to their destination. This shortcut left them in ruins when the well-worn path would have yielded success. This lesson could still be learned by many speculators and investors today. How many bankruptcies would be avoided if unnecessary risks were averted? Today's shortcuts don't lead to cannibalism, at least not literally. So put the ghost stories away. For a good life lesson and a scary story around your campfire, a group of hungry pioneers stuck in 20 feet of snow on Halloween 163 years ago should do the trick.